I was halfway through my lemonade when I heard Ida's voice so shrill and so sudden, it made Murphy, my dog, drop his bone and bolt inside. "You there? Get off that porch before I call the police," she shouted like she was casting a demon out of her lawn. I blinked, looked down at my fuzzy slippers, then back up at the woman, pointing her phone at me like it was a taser. She genuinely thought I was trespassing. On my own front porch. I hadn't even made it to the second sip before she tapped 911 and started describing me as a suspicious woman lurking around the Wexler house, not knowing she was talking to the actual Mrs. Wexler. Or more precisely, the mayor's wife. What she had done, unintentionally or not, was take a lazy Sunday and turn it into a political soap opera. It all started that morning, just like any other. The sun had barely crept up over Cedarbrook Lane, and I had the rare pleasure of a quiet day. No press briefings, no city events, no traffic meetings with angry constituents. Just me, a glass of lemonade, and a good paperback on the porch of our craftsman-style home tucked on the corner lot of a sleepy neighborhood. Well, sleepy except for one resident, Cheryl Dalton, or as most neighbors called her, Clipboard Cheryl. Cheryl lived 2 doors down and was the HOA's unofficial enforcer, complete with laminated neighborhood codes and a knack for misusing the word trespassing. I had barely leaned back in the porch swing, still in my robe, when I heard the unmistakable clap of rubber-soled sandals storming toward me. She didn't even look at me before declaring, "Excuse me, you can't be here." I raised an eyebrow. "Morning, Cheryl." She stopped, squinted, and then asked, "Who are you?" "I'm Mrs. Wexler," I said, smiling. She tilted her head like I'd just said I was a space alien. "Don't lie. I know the mayor's wife. I've seen her in the paper." "Well, maybe the paper caught me on a better hair day." She scowled. "You need to leave, or I'm calling 911. And she did. Right there. While I sat in my own swing, sipping lemonade like some criminal mastermind. Murphy even peered through the blinds like he couldn't believe it either. 5 minutes later, a squad car rolled up. Cheryl flagged them down like she was directing traffic at a hostage crisis. The officer stepped out, already annoyed, probably knew her reputation. He approached me, calm but cautious. "Ma'am, may I see some ID?" he asked. Before I could reach for it, his radio chirped, "Unit 27, that's confirmed. That's the mayor's residence. The woman is his wife." The officer's expression changed so fast, I thought his face would snap. Cheryl looked like someone had hit her with a cold bucket of pudding. "That can't be her," she stammered. "She doesn't even look like." She stopped herself, but the implication hung there like a bad smell. Right then, a city vehicle pulled up. My husband, Richard, stepped out in his usual navy suit, calm as ever. He kissed my cheek, looked Cheryl dead in the eye, and said, "You called the police on my wife." She fumbled for an excuse. I thought she was an intruder. The house looked empty. I didn't recognize her. Richard kept his tone polite, but you could feel the chill. "You accused a woman of trespassing on her own porch. You refused to believe her when she told you who she was. That isn't neighborhood watch. That's harassment." The officer nodded. And that's when things got weird. Another city official arrived, this time from the property records office. Apparently, Cheryl didn't just call 911. She had submitted an HOA report claiming our property was vacant. That triggered a red flag in the system that could have led to tax penalties or worse. The report even had her digital signature. False documentation. Not just a mistake. A move. Richard stood still for a beat, then said, "This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was planned. They didn't arrest her, not yet. But she got a formal warning." Cheryl shuffled off, red in the face, tripping on the curb. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. The very next morning, she was back. This time with a manila folder, waving it like it contained the cure for cancer. I was watering the flower beds when she stomped up again. "We need to talk," she snapped. She laid out a half-dozen printouts, mostly screenshots of HOA databases and hand-scribbled notes. Nothing official. Nothing city-signed. She insisted our house had been listed vacant. I asked her plainly, "Did you ever knock on the door? Talk to my husband." Her response, "I didn't want to disturb him. I figured you were both gone." I said, "So your plan was to flag us as squatters and hope for the best?" She blinked. It was a precautionary submission. By noon, the HOA president, Dave, had arrived with a clipboard of his own. Apparently, Cheryl had reported me again this time as a hostile occupant. Dave pulled me aside and quietly admitted that Cheryl had been pestering the HOA for months, sending in grainy photos from across the street and pushing them to act. I told him this wouldn't stop, not unless someone did something. That evening, Richard filed a formal complaint and proposed a new citywide protocol. HOA reports needed verification, photographic evidence, and a witness. No more clipboard witch trials. Cheryl responded by going digital. She posted in the local Facebook group, said I was impersonating a public figure, called me an agent of Porch propaganda, uploaded a zoomed-in video of me grabbing an Amazon package in a hoodie, suggesting it was proof I was a decoy. Reddit picked it up. Someone added dramatic music to the doorbell cam footage. It went viral. One meme said, "Wanted for porch loitering armed with lemonade." Then came the parody music video. A woman in a visor lip-syncing Cheryl's 911 call to a pop beat. And the flyers. Hundreds of them. Cheryl accused me of being a political operative sent to destroy the HOA. Said my rose bushes had cameras. Neighbors finally had enough. They filed complaints against her. One kind neighbor even cleaned up her shredded flyers from my yard. Another brought me cupcakes. One painted a sign that read, "Let her sit." The city issued a warning. Cheryl tore it up and filmed herself doing it. That was the last straw. She tried to sue me for emotional distress. Said I ruined her reputation. Claimed I could have avoided everything by just inviting her in. Even the judge laughed. "Ma'am," she said, "the only person disturbing your peace is you." Case dismissed. After that, things changed. The HOA rewrote the rules. Dave stepped down. Lisa, a retired judge, took over and called a meeting called Community Healing. Cheryl lost her voting privileges. And one morning, as I sipped my lemonade, Cheryl passed by without her visor or clipboard. Just her. She stopped at the edge of my lawn. "You're not going anywhere, are you?" she said. "No," I said. "This is home." She nodded and walked on. It wasn't peace, but it was enough. A few weeks later, at a neighborhood block party, I was asked to speak. I stood on a small platform, Murphy at my side, and said, "Sometimes the smallest places of porch, a swing, a patch of lawn become the biggest battlegrounds. But they also remind us what matters. Kindness, boundaries, and the courage to sit still when someone wants to push you out." Now every morning, I sit on that swing with my lemonade under a little plaque that reads, "Civic Strength in Stillness." And that, my friend, is how a porch became a throne.